before, I know it's going to be like a lot of information that's going to seem kind of like the first day of class when you're talking about the syllabus and blah, blah, blah. So, but I want to give you enough time because there are some deadlines coming up. So I want to give you enough time to discuss these before we move on. So first of all, I have uploaded class participation grades. And I usually do these in online classes before halfway into the semester. Okay. So the grade you currently have is not your final grade. It's very far from your final grade. It's actually more like a heads up, this is what you currently have. I know usually classes don't give participation, and when they give participation, it's kind of more attendance. I don't take attendance. If you show up or not, your money, not mine. So it's not really showing up, it's more participation, right? We have questions just all over class. And so because in this portion we start talking more like climate change and more like discussion, opinion-based questions, hopefully you open up a little bit more and actively participate, raise your hand and do that. I am not saying that I've told you many times, being on that side, I still there are some classes that I get more nervous than others because clearly I don't dominate all of the topics that we talk about. Sometimes it's scary, sometimes, hey, I have to ask you, how do I even say this word? So it's only 17 of us. It can be scary. Sometimes I had to, kind of write down what I was going to say and practice it before I said it. Whatever you have to do. I'm not asking that everybody participates the same way, but from this point on, if you improve, if you increase your participation, active participation, your grade is going to go significantly up. It doesn't mean that if at this point you have 30%, I am going to average it of 30, and at the end you get 100, so the average is going to be, 65%. You increase the participation, it's not an average, it can end up in 80, 90, it doesn't matter, right? So please, let's just push some of those scary moments, and even if you're wrong, okay. So that's the first part. Okay. The second part, the final project presentations topic. Clearing up the presentation. So the topic, you telling me what you're going to do, are due October 12th. Okay? So if you're doing capstone with the class, remember I told you about 3 weeks ago, you must meet with me before Friday, October 7th, which gives you a week for you to discuss with me your project. I don't want to talk a lot about capstone because you got that email, but briefly, before October 7th, all you have to tell me is something about your topic so I can give you some feedback if your capstone before your topic is due on October 12th. If you are not doing capstone, it's fine. October 12th, the idea is that I can give you some feedback before you start working on your project. Feedback, suggestions for literature to read, and all of that. So this is what's on the syllabus. Just briefly, the title of your presentation, why this topic is interesting to you. And I put this asterisk here because why is kind of like a justification, but this is not like why when they ask you, why do you like high school, right? This is a justification for a class. I'm telling you because sometimes I've gotten things like, why? Because when I was a kid, I looked at trees and I thought they were pretty. I mean, yes, that's a valid reason. I'm not saying it's not, but this is a class, right? We're talking more like scientific terms, so you can tell me, when I was little, I liked trees and I like learning more about it, and this is something scientific about why I want to talk about it, justify why you're going to be talking about this topic. And then in how do scientists approach this topic, I want you to include 2 theory references. You don't have to fully read them by then, of course, but just so that I can at least tell you, well, yes, that's That's not peer review, that's like the New York Times. I read the New York Times all the time, but that doesn't classify as peer review. That happens, and I'd rather tell you on October 12th than the day you're doing the presentation, okay? So those ideas, again, so maybe based on what you give me, I can give you one or two more suggestions for things for you to do. There is an entire module on Canvas called Final Student Presentations. It has some guidelines, if you want to start looking at that, we'll be talking about what the guidelines are later on. But there is also some examples of presentations from previous years, if you want to look at that. All you have to upload by the 12th are answers to this. Okay. Any questions about this? Also, if you're doing the presentation, all you have to do for the class is the actual presentation, like PowerPoint and slides. If you're doing counseling, your presentation is longer and you're also writing something. So you will have this in the slides, where to find non-physiology related papers. You're of course not limited to this. You can, go around Google Scholar, just read whatever you want to read. But if you are wondering about like specific journals, these are very specific plant journals. Nature Plants is of course very specific plant journal, and science. So. But you're not limited to this anyway. Okay, the last bit of information. We're going to start talking about midterm 3 today. And the reason why is because midterm 3 we have, I just checked, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lectures, so lecture 14 to lecture 21. We have 8 lectures until midterm 3. So the way this goes is I present questions like I usually do with this question 1, question 2, question 3. This is individual. So this is not, yes, of course you can talk to your friends, but it's on your own to earn the points. So this is the thing. When you fully correctly answer, explain the question, you will earn 1 point. Once you complete 11 points, you don't have to take midterm. Okay? If anybody completes 11 points, then you're good. You don't have to even show up for midterm. Now, I'm not expecting that everybody will. So the way it usually works, and it's going to get more complicated. So let's say, for example, that you earn 4 points. That means you have 40% of midterm 3. You still have to complete 60%. So the day of the exam, you have to answer 6 questions to complete that 60%. Okay. If you have 6 points, then you have to complete up to 40%. So from the exam, you pick 4 questions, and that's what you have to write. If you have 10, you still have to come and complete just 1 more, because it's like you have to get 110% to be accepted. Okay? So that's it. So the exam is going to have, also the exam has only 8 questions. So I'm going to ask everybody to at least get 2 points. So every class, well, today I have like about 10 questions because we're spending some time here. I expect we're not going to cover all of them, but I will have at least 10, 11, 12 questions per class. So there are multiple. Okay. The exam at the end has 8 questions. So the most you can get is 80% if there are no points at all from this. Here, any questions? Good. So let's start. And also you can earn like half points. And I will give you every, 2 or 3 days an update on how everybody's doing. So good. Okay. So we're going to start talking about photosynthesis. So one of the things is, in my experience, whenever you're in any other class and talk about photosynthesis is the most dreadful lecture. Nobody really cares. It's like, oh my God, why do I care? Well, we have 8 lectures. So you have probably seen, the overall reaction of photosynthesis. So here is CO2 and water, and this is the general formula for hexose and then oxygen. So we start here. Can anybody define these four terms? This one four. And just one thing, when we're talking like in this case, it's like if someone told you define cytoplasm, and it's like, I mean, it's that thing that's inside that is not an organelle, right? So as long as you can say something like that, I don't need like a super scientific explanation. I wouldn't know how to define cytoplasm properly. So, can you define this for us? Okay.
So like the thylakoid is like the chlorophyll containing organelle, and then
Where is it?
it's inside the chlorophyll.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's like where the contains the photocenters.
Okay.
And then the thylakoid lumen would be like the inside of the thylakoid, and then stroma. I don't know if it's grana. I think stroma are like the stacks of thylakoids, or is it switch grana? Grana are the stacks.
Okay.
And then the stroma would be like the. Lost the last one.
So what is the stroma? So think about, so you're describing a chloroplast. You said thylakoid lumen, and the stack. What is the stroma?
Is it just all of them connected together?
You're almost there. I'm just going to give you half because I have to be fair with everything. So. Okay. What is the stroma? So whenever you have a chloroplast, I mean, I'm going to show you a picture here, but it's going to have really more things. So you're going to find things that look like pancakes. These are the thylakoids, okay? Some said all photosynthesis, all the light reactions occurs here, inside the thylakoids. The thylakoid lumen is, of course, the inside of the pancake. What are you going to say? Yeah, actually that's how I define it because I have no better way of defining it. The stroma is the cytoplasm of the chloroplast. I don't think that's the technical term, but that's what it is. Like all the liquid inside of the chloroplast, that is not the thylakoid lumen, and the grana is the stack of pancakes. The stroma is the cytoplasm of the chloroplast. So, thylakoids, and then lumen, then granum is the stack of thylakoids, grana is just multiple stacks of thylakoids. And then all of these things, that's not inside of the thylakoids, but still within the double membrane. That's the stroma. You have to answer both.
So pretty sure the light-dependent reactions happen within the thylakoid, and then the stroma contains the light-independent reactions.
So the light-independent reactions are in the stroma, and then the light-dependent reactions are in the stroma. So whenever we think, and of course we're going to talk about this in a lot of details, probably more than you want to know about photosynthesis. The overall thing that happens in photosynthesis is you have the light reactions, where you have light and water. That's the thing we usually associate with photosynthesis, light and water. And the key is that from the light reactions, the main output is ATP and NADP. That's the main output of the light reaction. Then that NADPH and ATP, as you can see, doesn't leave the chloroplast. It stays within the chloroplast to be used as energy to take that CO2 and reduce it to sugars. So none of that energy produced from the light reactions is there to power any cellular activities. It's not going to go and ATP leave and provide energy for the cells. It's staying within the chloroplast to run the Calvin cycle. So when we think of the light reactions that are in the thylakoid, from this overall reaction you see water coming here and oxygen leaving. And then, from the light-dependent reactions, then we would have the CO2 entering. So CO2 has nothing to do with the light reaction. And then we will have the glucose or sugars there. And so just to recap from lecture 11, you remember we briefly talked, we used it more to talk about nitrogen, but we said how the most oxidized state of carbon was CO2 and the most reduced was methane. So now, of course, hopefully it makes sense that if your input is CO2, you're going to have to input a lot of energy to make that CO2 something useful that is actually useful, that is more useful. How are you going to do it? With ATP and NADPH. So with ATP and NADPH, you will reduce that CO2 into sugars. Each C from CO2 will give you 1 carbon per sugar. So whenever we think of high energy molecules in metabolism, of course we think of ATP. That's one that everybody is familiar with. But then there are 2 different types of molecules. We have NADH and we have NADPH. NADH, usually if you just want to go home and for some reason look at glycolysis or the Krebs cycle, you're going to see the outputs of those catabolic reactions are going to be NADH. The outputs required for anabolic reactions is going to be NADPH.
The CO2 is the source of carbon, the sunlight is the source of the energy in the photons, and then the water splits up to put out oxygen and add in hydrogen components.
What else does the water do? The most important thing that you need to run photosynthesis. So you said it gives you oxygen and it gives you protons. There's something missing. When you split water, you get oxygen, protons, and okay, so let's work into it. You have water, right? You get oxygen, well, carbon molecule, which doesn't exist, oxygen, and you get protons. What are you missing?
Hydrogen.
Almost. What else is the hydrogen besides protons? Each atom of hydrogen has protons and electrons. So electrons, okay? So that is how I would define photosynthesis. So it's light energy. So the sun gives you the photons, the energy in the form of photons. That is converted into chemical energy. And how? Because if light is used to split water, and so you obtain all of these ingredients. Hydrogen, we're going to see later on, is going to contribute to an electrochemical gradient. But one of the most important things are the electrons. These electrons are going to absorb energy and become high energy electrons. And is that what powers photosynthesis? Light will split these and you will energize it, but you need these electrons to power photosynthesis. One of the most important things is this is known as photolysis. Whenever we do this industrially, even with a lot of energy, a lot of high pressure, high temperature, all you get is oxygen and hydrogen. You don't really split the molecule of hydrogen in protons and electrons. This is something that as of we are right now, almost only plants can do efficiently for us. So they need these electrons to basically power all processes. So what are protons used for? Then an electrochemical gradient we're going to see later on. The high energy electrons to power photosynthesis. That's what's going to power it. And then oxygen, for this specific term, is not used for anything. It's waste product of photosynthesis. Yes, we needed aerobic photosynthetic organisms needed, but in terms of the light reactions, it's doing nothing. It's waste product. And then, so what we're going to be talking about later on is how, remember how we had these difference in pH gradient that was powering transport of different molecules against the gradient by seaport and antiport? Well, in that case, plants use it to power ATP synthesis using ATP sequence. There are three right answers, and when you answer, you must be all three of them need to be correct. Oh, I don't know who raised their hands first. You know how we solve things in this class? No, because Lauren did. I know it was you or Lauren. Oh, was it the three of you? I think it was Lucas and Lauren. I saw your hands first. You can go.
Sure. 1, 4, and 6.
No. You already did half the work for someone. Yes.
1, 5, and 6.
No. Well, so one thing. I just realized, yes, 6 also goes there. But then it's my bad because I said something. Then it's 4 things you can associate this with. Can you tell me which one is missing?
3.
2. Okay, no, that's enough. That's you said everything but 4. It's 4. No, it wasn't 4.
He said, yeah, he
1,
said
4, and
that.
6.
Oh, okay. So you said 1, 4, and 6.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then it was right. Sorry. So it's not half a point, it's 1. Sorry. Yeah. So I don't know why I heard something. So yeah, so 1, 4, and 6. Sorry about that. So it's the light-dependent reactions, oxidation of water, and the filament. So when we talk about the Z scheme of photosynthesis, what is happening in that first part? All the way to here. So you can just talk about what's happening. Yes. What did you write?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Light hits the membrane and then energizes or brings the electrons up to high energy.
Yes, but what is happening before that? In this very important part.
Of the oxidation of water.
Yeah, so you oxidize water. What oxidizes water? One more thing. What oxidizes water?
Is it just the membrane? the photosystem?
Yeah, so not necessarily photosystem, but yes, there is something in here that is known as the oxygen evolution complex, which is more important. So, sun provides enough energy to oxidize water. Okay? So, there are like entire book chapters written on the oxidation of water, and I don't think anybody fully really knows what happens, but what happens is light is absorbed and it produces a strong oxidant, so strong that it can oxidize water to split it into these components that we talked about here. Then photons are absorbed and they energize electrons. Now you have high energy electrons. Then what? Yes.
Is it light is activating again and then paradox break down to ADP plus to ADP?
Sorry, what did you say at the beginning?
Is there light is activating again and then there's paradox breaking down to ADP plus ADPH? I think a hydrogen is going to do a subsequent reaction as well to help with that.
Yeah, so light is absorbed again, that's an important part. So light is absorbed again, energized. And then basically what you have now is ferredoxin that I am not expecting that all of you remember, but was that compound that is nitrogen metabolism, carbon metabolism. So ferredoxin is reduced, that's a very strong reductant, and then it's so strong that it can reduce NAD plus into NAD. Okay, so what you have in general in here is again light and water coming and on light, of course, the sun oxidizing this water, giving you electrons, protons, and oxygen, that is in this case a waste product. Those energized electrons and those protons enter light reactions to give you NADPH and ATP, and then that's as far as the light reaction. This is not 4 points. Now everybody's like, so why are plants great? Yes.
It has to do with the type of chlorophyll compounds that they're using. So they'll not want to absorb green light, because if they absorb all the spectrum's light, it'd get too hot. It'd be too much energy. It can't take all. So they take the ultraviolet and the blue, and then they'll take the red. So they'll leave out the green, which is why it looks green.
So plants basically will, when things are a certain color, and of course I'm not gonna pretend that I can explain physics to you, is the things that are absorbed and the things that are rejected. And so plants will absorb red, blue and red, and will reflect. That's what plants do. So, light travels in these particles of light, particles, waves, photons, and then how much energy is in each one of those photons depends on the wavelength.
The shorter the wavelength, the higher the energy.
Yes, the shorter the wavelength, the higher the energy. I'm sorry, this one didn't come here. We want to take questions. So the shorter the wavelength, the higher the energy, right? So that's why you see as the one end of the spectrum, the gamma rays, which are the highest energy, and then you have the infrared light, well, the far red, infrared, and then radio waves. You don't have to explain all the graph, just how those things are associated.
So blue light has the smallest wavelength, so it's gonna make it more excited, it's gonna have the most energy. And then red light has a higher wavelength, so it's lower energy. I'm not really sure if fluorescence is just like higher or higher wavelength will create more fluorescence. I cannot say that.
What about your lowest excited state? Okay, so we agree that, energy, so blue wavelength is shorter, so higher excited state. So the thing is, plants can absorb in both blue and red, right? So what they can absorb in blue, it's a lot of energy. It's probably it's too much energy for plants. So whenever the pigment molecules absorb blue light, it's so much energy that it makes them highly unstable, more unstable than usual. So as you can see here, it's like, okay, this is too much. I need to get rid of some of this energy right away. The way that the pigment molecules do it is by releasing some of it as heat. It's like we cannot even use it, right? Heat is like wasted energy in this chemical conversion of chemical reactions because it's not being converted into energy, it's just put out there. So then it gets to the lowest excited state, which is either because some of it was lost as heat, or if it absorbs more on the red wavelength that has less energy. So now you have that. Okay? So this is the lowest excited state fluid. This is still unstable, but can control it more than the super high energy blue light. So now once you have this is the key point in which the plant is like, okay, I have this energy here in my bag. What do I want to do with it? And because it's still unstable, it's like you have something in your bank account and you have 30 seconds to get rid of that one. So there are three different options. I know you're distracted me, but there are three different options that the plants have. At least that we know. So, the ground state, let's assume this is like a chlorophyll clearing our molecule, but it's just easier to show it with an atom. So in an excited state, you have electrons just basically being more excited. And so this higher energy has to be dissipated because the plant again doesn't know what to do with all of that energy that has stored. So it has three options. One of the first ones is it releases the energy as fluorescence. Fluorescence, when you see fluorescence, is that decay of energy because a photon is emitted. So that's fluorescence. It actually emits light, and by emitting light, it's not releasing energy as heat because it's not the same. It's releasing it as a photon, and then emits light and goes down to the ground state. That's option number one. Option number two is let's just release it as heat. And option number three is actually the photochemical reactions that power photosynthesis. So one is as fluorescence or as heat, or then is basically converting it, passing it into something that can make that energy become chemical energy, that light energy become chemical energy. And so that is kind of some of the decisions that a complex known as antenna complex carries. So, I said question 6 again.
Listening.
Maybe because each individual excitation of an electron doesn't necessarily result in some sort of an actual useful chemical reaction. It could be releasing a photon or heat. having more of them is going to make each reaction center more efficient, basically.
Yes. So basically what happens is you have so what you have is in this antenna complex view. So all of these antenna complex has thousands of pigment molecules, of chlorophyll molecules, but only one single in the middle reaction center. So the goal of this antenna complex is absorb light and has that energy without being transformed, just the energy that they absorb, not chemical energy just yet, into the reaction center. So what happens is, because again, none of the energy that is absorbed will have enough energy to power the reaction center, and also because it is not useful. So these reactions are happening very quickly. So the book mentions is if you have just a single chlorophyll associated with reaction center, now take your molecule kind of waiting there for light to come and excite you. And it just doesn't happen quickly enough. Sometimes, as we're gonna see in future lectures, certain chloroplasts are gonna be absorbed because there's other leaves there, or there's other chloroplasts or other organelles providing shadow for certain chlorophyll molecules, so that's not going to be efficient for the plant. So they just have a lot of molecules around, harvesting energy to pass it to the reaction center. And so we have in that reaction center, there are multiple molecules. So these molecules that you have here can be carotenoids and can be different types of chlorophyll. All here, as you can see, they will absorb higher energy, and then eventually the reaction center is going to have lower energy than that. To answer both questions, which one and why? Yes.
Well, is smaller wavelength higher energy?
Okay.
Is that what you said earlier? So if centronoids are absorbing the most, like highest energy, then that would be A.
Okay. Yes.
And then
So now that you worked it out loud, so
Yeah.
now say the whole thing like in your own words. How would you explain it?
so centronoids are going to be absorbing the highest energy because you're going to be working towards the and releasing, like you're working from higher to lower energy state. So you're going to absorb the most energy, and it's going to continue down until you reach the center of the antenna complex.
Of the reaction center. Yeah. So in this case, carotenoids, as you can see them here, they will absorb the shortest wavelength, which is 400 nanometers. Clearly, it's the high in energy, so the shortest wavelength. And another important thing is, as you can see here, chlorophyll reaction center, this is all green. Carotenoids are not green. Carotenoids are actually kind of orangey color. So whenever you think of foods rich in carotenoids, like they'll tell you carrots and all of these orange things. Also carotenoids, and I think we're going to talk about this later on in the semester, are responsible in large part for the orange color in the fall leaves. So as the weather gets colder, of course not all trees, right? Not all of them will do this. Some of the chlorophyll will start breaking, but the carotenoids kind of remain there, harvesting those last bits of light that are available. And they are also important if you think about this for protecting the plant. So not so much in the fall, but chlorophylls cannot really harvest and they are actually damaged under certain wavelengths, they don't have the ability to absorb it. So carotenoids do a lot of the protection for the plants. They absorb some of the highest wavelengths, and so more absorbent, they can use the energy, but also protects some of the chlorophyll molecules from just very energized wavelengths. That if they get too much energy, actually they can get shut down and the molecules just stop working. So carotenoids are very important for all of these oxidation mechanisms. So when we think about the protein complexes, there are two protein complexes. One of them is photosystem 1, called P700, and photosystem 2 that is called P68.
Is it because of the wavelength of the red light they take in?
The wavelength that
Of the red light they take in respectively?
So the wavelength they take in, but they don't just take in like 700. What does it mean exactly?
So like the wavelength that excites the electrons?
So it's the one that is preferred by them, right? It's not like the preferred wavelength that excites them the most. So they absorb maximally at, so photosystem 1 at 700 and photosystem 2 at 680. If you check, they are 680 and 700, they are here. So
It's because it's, that's observation.
yes,
Well, the last one says max wavelength, so it absorbs everything after that.
yeah. So actually, remember when we talked about this, right? These, of course, we don't have numbers here, but we said carotenoids absorb about 400, and that's about blue wave. So they absorb, the antenna complex absorb at different wavelengths, and the maximum, once it reaches the reaction, it reaches the reaction center, is that maximum wavelength. So also, as you can see, energy is being lost, so yes, they absorb different pigments in the antenna complex will do that, but the maximum absorption is going to be under the red lens. So we have photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. I guess this is question.
I'm sure it's photosynthesis 2 produce the oxidizing, and then PS1 would be the strong reductant.
Is that the only correct one? It's saying is hard, so it could be, but maybe it's not. Take your time.
Well, I can work to see out this is that one.
Is that the only one?
I think I'm just gonna stick with that.
Okay. Good. That's the only correct. So, photosystem 1 produces strong reductant and photosystem 2 a strong oxidant. It's not, C is incorrect, both of them absorb light. Photosystem 1 doesn't emit electrons for photosystem 2. And photosystem 1 produces ATP, which is not. That's incorrect as well. So whenever we go back to our photosynthesis, we can have, photosystem 2 also. Why is photosystem 2 before photosystem 1? I have no idea. My only guess is they probably discovered this one first, and then they discovered the other one second, because I don't know why they call it this way. So photosystem 2 is the one that absorbs light and has the oxygen evolving complex and has a strong oxidant, so strong light oxidizes water, and it produces a weak reductant, and then this weak reductant is going to reduce this weak oxidation here, and then this will produce this strong reductant that is going to reduce energy pH. Yes.
I know, I guess before that, photosystem 1 or 2 or 1, they have one shares of hydrogen, or an electron, that's carried all the way through each step. That's what creates the pH difference between the woman and the strong.
So what exactly connects them?
I was just thinking about the hydrogen and those things.
So, give you one more time. Look at the picture. What is connecting them?
The electron. Big
The what?
electron transport chain.
The electron transport chain. Yes. And so you said something about hydrogen.
Yeah.
What was it now? Yes. So what was it now?
The electron transport chain.
Yes. What did you say about hydrogen?
Oh,
Why was that important?
it's moves through every single reaction, through each reaction. Like in the oxidation, it moves to the next one. That's all. That's how my brain explained it.
Yes. And so it oxidizes the next one, and what happens in that process? What does the electron transport chain do? Sorry.
Creates a gradient.
Of what?
Of
You kind of already said it. Creates a gradient of what?
hydrogen.
Of hydrogen.
Okay.
Yes. So, see? So, yes. So, whenever you look at this, they are connected by an electron transport chain. And of course, this one is the mitochondria. So, ignore this is not the mitochondrial matrix. This would be the thylakoid domain, this would be the thylakoid membrane, and this would be the stroma. But if these were the components of this electron transport chain that you have here, what they do is at some point, you have electrons from here energized. All that energy is used to reduce protein complexes. So something is reduced, then it passes electrons to something else, so that becomes oxidized, reduced, right? The electron transport chain that happens in mitochondria. And so as electrons jump and lose energy, that energy is used to pump hydrogens against the concentration gradient to create a higher concentration of hydrogens here that then going down the concentration gradient power ATP synthesis in the cells. Okay? So that's basically what's happening there. So next time you see that horrible C chemophotosynthesis, that I can tell you I saw it many times in my life, and I just hated that thing until I have no choice but study it a lot. So what you have at the beginning is water and light. Coming, there's this oxygen evolving complex that splits that water into all of these 2 points. The key is these electrons. Electrons in water are energy-less. They just basically have nothing. They're just electrons there. So you need to absorb so that this light will be a Tena complex in photosystem 2 to energize those electrons eventually. So now that you have high energy electrons, they are going to be used to pass them and reduce the different components of the electron transport chain. We're not going to talk about the names of the components, we don't care what they are. And then in that process, the hydrogen gradient is created across the thylakoid membrane. Once these electrons have lost almost all of the energy, they are handed to photosystem 1. At that point, they almost have no more energy to do anything. That's why photosystem 1 absorbs light again from the antenna complex. Then the electrons are powered here. Now they have all of this energy. And that energy is now used not to produce any more ATP, but actually to reduce ferredoxin and reduce NADP plus into NAD. That is what happens in the C scheme of photosynthesis. In the light reactions, you have some ATP that we're not looking at right now, just contributing to these gradients, and then NADP. That is going to stay in the chloroplast. But so one of the things is that if you think this is the chloroplast, if this is a remember the ATP and the NADPH will not leave the chloroplast; they will stay there to be fed into the Calvin cycle that occurs in the stomach of the cell. Okay. Yeah. So I think I have the summary here. Yes, the photosystem 2 oxidizes water, transfers electrons, and photosystem 1 produces ATP. Okay? Good, so let me know if you have any questions. Have a great weekend. I will see you next time.